This episode is supported by Battlefoam.com.
Anime cyberpunk style meets skirmish combat in Infinity. Experience 8 high-tech factions and fight to control the human sphere at the Infinity Hub on beastofwar.com. A world of hideous nightmares awaits in Kingdom Death Monster. Fight to survive or fade into darkness at the Kingdom Death Hub at beastofwar.com.
Good morning, welcome to Weekenderland. Journey through gaming with myself, Warren, Justin, and Ad.
You want to say Ben?
Ben, Warren, but Ben's not here, so you're lumped with the three of us.
Ben's filling his holiday week with lots of gaming and lots of events. Like he's promised us he'll bring us up to speed next week. So
I guarantee you he's still looking at the site. It's like an addiction. It's just like, I'll check for 5 minutes. Oh wait, I just wrote 2 posts.
Yep. Ben will be back with us next week, so we will catch up with him then. Right. Awards. The annual awards. The annual awards for this year are now over. Mm-hmm. Okay. They were a complete success.
It was a fantastic evening.
It was a fantastic evening. We live streamed the whole thing. It was
in one shot,
in one go.
There was a huge mistake though. A huge mistake. I got no cake. I got no. Every time I went back into the room, in here, no plunk. In there, no cake. It was awful.
You missed on the 15s, man. They had this cake called 15s.
Yeah, it's an Irish one, isn't it?
I don't know what it is.
I think it is.
It's basically all of the gunge of cakes and marshmallows and stuff.
Baker leftovers.
All chucked into a pan and then baked. It was absolutely brilliant. If you've missed the show, you can watch it back. We also have what turned out to be a great little documentary.
Oh, it was fantastic.
We even have a documentary of the making of how the whole thing was put together. There's a lot more goes into it than you might think. So if you're into your behind the scenes stuff, come across, join Backstage. We have that documentary. Article has been updated with all of the winners. We are reaching out at the moment with all the winners and all the finalists to give them their badges, their virtual awards, and the mystery box prizes went out to Paul.
Yeah, Paul's promised to send us some pictures when it arrives with them. We did do a quick bit of math just because we kind of threw it together because we like to make it a mystery, like for ourselves as much as for everyone at home who actually nominated on the awards, and it came to just over £1,200 worth of stuff.
1,200 quid.
Absolutely crazy.
What happens when you walk through the office going, "Woo, shiny! Woo, shiny! Woo, shiny!"
So we are going to start the process now very shortly of building up the next.
Yeah, we enjoyed building the box a lot. Like coming together and just grabbing things that we thought was cool, ensuring we had a nice mix of lots of different things. So building it over the course of the year is, I think, a great way to really enjoy all year.
Yeah, stay tuned to weekenders, to unboxings and things like that, because from here on in, we're going to build a gadget show style grand prize that will be given away during the annual awards next year.
It just shows you miniatures isn't that bad a hobby when it comes to expenditure when you compare it to gadgets. Yes. You know, because that was a pretty hefty mystery box, but those gadget guys just drop a 50-inch TV or a new Sonic. Oh, it's a £10,000 camera. That's a hobby that breaks wallets. Like, forget Kickstarter.
See, I don't know. I feel sorry for people that win those prizes because how do you fit it in your house whenever all of that stuff arrives? Let's say you live in like a 2-bedroom terrace and this mountain of stuff arrives on your front door. How do you fit it all in?
Christmas sort of for the next like 3 years.
It is.
How do you house insure it? Contents insurance on that stuff.
Christmas sort of for the next 3 years, but some of that stuff dates so rapidly.
What, the 8 pieces of toaster that toast Star Wars characters onto it dates quickly? I don't know.
Date quickly, but a games console would date quickly, a TV would date quickly.
Yeah.
At least with your miniatures, you know, season stuff going to last forever. I have a correction to make because I made a faux pas during the show. In the category for best hobby and gaming accessory, the winner of that category was the Army Painter Mega Paint Set, which you see here. However, in
the moment, the enjoyment of the night, live show, live TV.
Of building the show and trying to fix buttons. I don't really have much excuse for it other than
plonk.
I think I'm getting old. This was This was early.
This was early.
This was one of the first segments. I have no excuse other than maybe age is setting in a little bit. But I got it. I got the Army Painter Mega Paint set confused in my mind with the Army Painter Complete, or Wargamers or Gamers Complete paint set. I'm forgetting the name of them. So whenever I described it as being a limited run that was no longer in stock, that's not true. This, bringing it back up again, is in fact one of the best sellers. It is available. It has 50 paints in it, includes a brush. The paints, obviously, as you know, Army Painter wise, are 100% matches to the spray cans, the spray primers. It is available. You can go and get it. It was the winner. Apologies because I would have been sitting there talking about it's no longer available. It was amazing. It had everything in it that you ever needed. So let me rephrase it now. And the winner is the Army Painter Mega Paint set, which is totally available now, which has 50 paints in it, which is almost everything you likely to ever need.
I do have to wonder, of all the products that won, I have to wonder if any of them are actually going to put that Beast of War digital badge award onto their box whenever they do the next run. I have to wonder if any of them
see.
will.
Do you know what, Justin? We'll make that your secret mission. We'll print out a bunch of stickers and we'll just send you everywhere. You can just stick them on.
Earlier this week, we hit a Justin on the site. I don't know if anyone noticed. If anyone's been particularly keeping a keen eye on Caesar's comics and also throughout the site, because it was hidden really, really well, actually. We should send them to the different companies, the 30 different companies that won, and even to Tin Racer's house, maybe. And see about sneaking Justin in Wally style.
I think he makes a great Wally. So he does.
Like for our American compatriots, Waldo.
Oh, I think he makes a great Wally. So, sorry, I meant Wally. I can't get it out, man.
No.
Anyway, so apologies to the Army Painter guys because they were going, what product is he talking about? Yes, it's the Army Painter Mega Paint set, so it's definitely worth going and checking out. We've got some winners that we're going to be announcing at the end of the show. Aristeia Week winners, Starfinder winners, SteamCon winners. We have 2 ongoing competitions at the moment. Battle Foam. We are in this episode.
This is a brand new one. This is a doozy. Here you go.
So in this episode, we're giving away this amazing Battle Foam backpack. But we will talk to you about that at the end of the show and how you go about winning that. Okay. Ongoing wise, we to remind you, we have our core space competition on Beasts of War on the last weekender. So
so core space was from a couple of weeks ago. It's coming there in about the 8 days left of their Kickstarter now. So as the core space Kickstarter starts to wrap up, next week we'll look to announce the winner, and that was naming your own galactic space station. That's how you entered that one.
So the post is linked below in the show notes. So come across and put your space station name in there, and then we have this amazing Jesserai Terrain 400 quid mega bundle of terrain from the guys at Foreground.
The 28mm Jesserai Industrial Ward that the guys from
Do
Foreground
we have
just
pictures?
came out of. Do I have a picture? That is a question. I do have a picture.
He does have a picture.
I have one right here.
Oh,
there we go. So this is the jeepers! Just look at it.
And it's all magnetized together, which is really cool.
Yeah, and Justin got a chance to sit down with Cad and Ben.
That's my hobby. That's my hobby. Come to backstage if you want to hear about that.
Well, the video is out, so if you want to see the video of the terrain, so you can see what it is you've actually got a chance of winning, that's on the site now as well.
Okay, and to be able to be in with the chance of winning that, you go to that post, again linked in the show notes, and you suggest ideas for expansion of the terrain and give it a name. I am looking at that, and I think aliens.
100%.
Wouldn't that be an amazing one to grab the AVP stuff? And just to play out an episode of Aliens with your colonial marines and your aliens on that. I just also, do you remember in Predator 2? So in Predator 2, the one with Danny Glover in it. They had that scene. It's my favorite scene from the Predator movies. Really? Even though I love the There's no doubt. The original Predator is the best of all
really?
of them.
Come on.
I love Blaine. I became a Jesse Ventura nut from that movie. But of all of the individual scenes, the scene that I love the most, because it utterly creeps me out, is the guys in the refrigeration in the freezer unit in the second Predator. Because and them having to
like blue airbrushing to that, you could make it look like that really easily.
And them thinking that they couldn't be seen, and then the Predator switching through all of the different sight modes, and then suddenly they lit up. So imagine you could recreate something like that using that terrain within that whole refrigerated scene, and it's just God, so it's good stuff. So anyway, that's all still up for grabs. Now, this week, we're celebrating. We've done the annual awards, but the big celebration this week is Oriskany, our historical editor, has reached 100 articles on
103,
BC4.
was it? 103?
I think it's like 103 or something.
Yeah. He couldn't stop halfway through a series. He had to get it right through.
So it's 100.
Slam dunk it.
It's 100 articles spread over 25 themes. And myself and Justin I got a moment to sit down with Jim to talk about it.
From Viking halls to the cities of the future, terrain buffs will love our foreground hub. Watch gaming tables of all genres come to life at beastsofwar.com. Greek mythology rages to life in mythic battles pantheon. Become a god and command heroes and monsters in a battle for Olympus at beastsofwar.com.
So a milestone has been hit.
Right.
The 100, the historical editor has hit the 100 articles. He's actually bust through the 100 articles a little bit, but he's got the 100 articles. Jim, congratulations, man. What a milestone.
Thanks very much. Yeah, these big numbers, they make me feel old.
Jim, I've had to apologize at the start of this show for mixing up products, so don't talk to me about feeling old, man. I think
Okay.
the old brain is going. So
I've got more gray in the beard now.
right, Jim, 100 articles spread over 25 different themes. Over the course of goodness me, the last couple of years, it's been relentless anyway, going through. I want to quickly start talking about
a little over right about 3.5 years.
Yeah. Wow. I want to talk first, Jim, about how it got started, because the very first article series you did was something very close to my heart, because it was one where I learned a lot. Because obviously in tabletop gaming, especially in the world of wargaming, where you can become quite blinkered to anything outside of God's scale, outside of that 28 mil. So Jim took us through in that first article series about the 4 levels of wargaming, where we had to look at tactical, command tactical, operational, strategic. And it really did set the tone for where we would be headed in terms of Jim teaching us a thing or two every time he wrote something.
It was like about 3.5 years ago. It was the first time. I remember joking with Justin on one of the Flames of War videos. You always remember your first time. It's one of those ones that is kind of close to, at least close to my heart. Because it was the first one and you remember everything about it. It was June of 2014. I remember it was a Weekender episode. I think it was you and John Lyons, Warren, you and John Lyons, were talking about the Pacific. And I can't remember how the conversation got to that topic, but you guys were talking about Pacific, and do the Pacific battles in World War II make for good war games?
Yeah.
And the conversation was kind of like, well, not really, because it's just like, a mass of guys that, jump off either the Higgins boats or the Amtraks, and they pile onto a beach, and the Japanese, how many can the Japanese kill before they get overwhelmed? And it's like this mass crunch of firepower versus manpower. Yeah. And it's interesting history, but it's not really an interesting game, which is true. You're absolutely right about that. And it was the post that I made in that thread was, okay, well, the Pacific Pacific battles kind of have to be looked at in a different scale. You have to zoom out a little bit to most wargamers or historians call like the operational scale of wargaming.
Yeah.
And that's where you start talking about, you're zoomed out a great deal. You're not really a sergeant or a lieutenant or a captain now with a squad of 12 or a platoon of 40. You have to look at it as like a general with a division or a couple of divisions with an admiral and air power. And do you have engineers to build an airfield? And, then a Pacific battle can become really interesting. And I wrote like this, as it probably sounds by the way I'm rambling on here, it went into like this 2-page wall of text. It went into a weekender thread, and the next thing you knew, I had a PM from you, I think it was, saying, "Hey, James, mate, would you be interested in writing an article series about this?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, I talked about like 6 things in that thread. Which do you want the article about?" So it turned into the first 2 actually.
Yeah.
4 levels of wargaming and then wargaming in the Pacific.
Yeah. Do you know, that sounds so unlikely because normally it would have been me saying, all of it. I want everything, James. I want all of it.
I think that's kind of what happened because then I started writing the article and then it's like, okay, well, here's operational wargaming in the Pacific. And then it was like, well, wait a minute. Let's kind of break this up. Let's do operational wargaming and the 4 levels, and then we'll do the Pacific over here.
One of the highlights for me, James, of watching the article series evolve and stuff is the collaborations that you've done.
Absolutely.
And it's something that we want to be trying to encourage even more now going forward. As we know, there's a new Beasts of War website is in the works and will be coming at some point in the near future. And we want to allow people to be able to work together and to get involved in content creation with Jim and Az and co. So, Jim, you've done dozens of collaborations, mate. It's impossible to name them all, but do you want to pick out a few?
Yeah, there's been easily, like I said, there's been a total of 25 different series of the 103 articles that have been done so far. I'd say about at least 40% of them have been collaborated. I should say I've collaborated with a member of the Beasts of War community on at least one level or another.
Yeah.
Some of the highlight ones I can think of off the top of my head, again, it would be at least 12 of them, so I can't go through all of them.
Yeah.
But the ones I did with Chris Goddard, only because he collaborated with me more than once. American Revolution and the Worldwide D-Day Challenge. In fact, even you guys got involved in that one. We had your Pegasus Bridge battle. During the bolt action boot camp way back in 2015, where in true Beasts of War style, we managed to bugger up your entire campaign by coming out with the honest result that we could possibly have come up with from the Pegasus Bridge. I loved that result. And you nailed it in the interview because it's like, you know what? Because John Lyons was like, you know what? Or no, actually, I think it was Justin. Justin was like, oh, Oriskany's going to be upset because we've screwed up Normandy. And I'm like, no. And you were like, no, he's going to love it because he's playing the Germans. And sure enough, because
I was just sitting going, oh crap, I buggered up history. He's going to kill me.
No, because not only did Pegasus Bridge not fall, but we had another game. There's actually 2 bridges. Horsa Bridge was 400 meters further to the east. That bridge was also held by the Germans. So basically that route over the Orne Canal and the river are still, they're still up. Those 2 bridges are still up. And that brings in 21st Panzer Division. And so like 4 or 5 other games were affected in that campaign. We had 31 players in, I can't remember how many games, from 9 different countries involved in that. And in the thread, it went crazy. They were like, Pegasus Bridge is still up. The British didn't take it because we all knew what that was going to mean. 21st Panzer Division, at least some of 21st Panzer Division was going to be at Sword Beach. Yeah. A little bit into Juno Beach. Not so much Gold and further on to the west, but it was going to be, it was going to be big. And we owed it all to that. I think Commodore Rob was one of the players on that one.
Yeah. Well, I can run through
right there. There's like 7 or 8 people just in that one article series out of 25.
I can run through just a few more names. I'm sure we'll miss some, but there was Simon Stokes, there was Commodore Rob, there was Knack Chak, there was Piers, there was Uncle Jimmy, there's Seapols, Ben Collins, Dave Wheeler. There's been a ton of people involved in collaborating on projects. One highlight that springs to mind for me, Jim, was whenever we dragged you out of historical for a little period, and you got to go to the sci-fi world that you love, which was BattleTech, and it exploded. Because there was can I just be? I'm going to be quite rude here. There was a load of old geezers out there who loved that.
We did Star Wars, which was pretty successful. We did a little bit of sci-fi. I never tried to get myself. I mean, obviously I'm the historical editor. Yeah. But I've always tried to at least try once in a while, like with Craig Paul's up in Canada. We did a little bit of fantasy. We did a little bit of sci-fi. But with BattleTech, that one. I'm always like surprised at the community in a very pleasant way. Mm-hmm. I'm always like, we'll try one or two articles and we'll see if it gets picked up. BattleTech was, I'm the historical editor or whatever, but BattleTech was the most successful article series that I've ever done, at least in terms of the number of comments that we got. Yeah. And by the end of that first comment thread, the first article would hit like over 300 comments. Yeah. And at the end of that, we were measuring this by not even by comments anymore. We were measuring it by how many men or how many players I can send into storage units and garages and attics and basements and, mom's storage lockers or whatever to, get your bullwhip in one hand and your Indiana Jones hat, dig through the archaeological ruins of the old cobwebs, find your old copies of BattleTech and, drag that out of the shadows. We hit a vein on that one. Yeah,
do you know what?
This hidden under the surface love for old classic and nostalgic games like BattleTech. They literally BattleTech, Panzer Leader, GDW Assault. They just don't make them like that anymore. Yeah.
We're going to have to.
There's a love for these older games out there.
We're going to have to stick BattleTech on the 2018 schedule, Jim, and have another exploration through that world. I think
it's having another big release right now. I mean, it's a computer game, but the original designers are back into it. It's just had another release earlier last year. I think it was the first beta testing was rolled out for it. BattleTech's not going away.
Yeah. You see, I would nearly challenge the community to actually go hunting through their own basements and find an old game that you think should be resurrected for an article series, just as a suggestion in the comments for this. God. Just to see what people will come up with.
Yeah. That is a good idea, actually. Yes, if you've got games that you think have been forgotten about. Yeah, start pinging them and do we see what we can
would come out of the woodwork.
A personal highlight for me, Jim, was whenever we were able to collaborate with Jerry on our Dunkirk week, where we spent a week just exploring the aspects of Dunkirk. Dunkirk really did it for me because again, as with the first article series that he did, where it was saying, look, if you think Pacific doesn't play well, it's because you're looking at it wrong. Dunkirk did this as well because Dunkirk it really started to explore. Dunkirk is not a fight; it's an evacuation. So all of the rule conditions and all of the win conditions need to be re-examined. And that week was spectacular for me in learning more about how we can be more creative, use that phrase, think outside the box in terms of how we set up our games.
The 4 levels of wargaming one, and specifically the Pacific aspect of that, took a new look at things, saying a lot of the reason a Pacific game might not be working for you is because, what are you really doing? You're probably playing a game designed for the European, African, or Russian battlefields of World War II. Yeah. They want to have a new release. They stamp the word Pacific on it. They give you some new units, like some Japanese or some Marine units, and they say, go have fun. The problem is that the rules engine that you're playing with was designed for a totally different kind of game. Exactly like you said, you were 100%. You're looking at it the wrong way. You always want to be careful how you say that in an article series or an interview because you don't want to, sound like you're patronizing or anything. Gamers are a lot smarter than, you have to be smart to be a gamer. I've always felt. Yeah. But then also with Dunkirk, Dunkirk, if you're running it as a straight up, 1 versus 1, shootout or a battle, you're probably not doing it right because why are the British evacuating in that case? Yeah, it's a battle that you can have, and it's a game that you can have, but it's in the context that, quite obviously, the campaign is already lost. It's been lost. It was lost before it started. Hence the evacuation. So Obviously, we wanted to talk in that particular article series and also in that themed week. All those interviews with Jerry were just amazing to do.
Yeah.
Was how to have an unfair battle in a fair game, and the idea of asymmetrical victory conditions, where one side is definitely going to lose the battle, but how do you counterbalance that? It's like I always try to explain it as like a lever. Here's the Germans, here are the British, and in the middle you have your victory conditions, and you try to balance it. And okay, well, let's have the typical idea of asymmetrical victory conditions is let's have 10 units that are worth 10 points apiece over here, and then let's have 100 units that are worth 1 point over here, like the classic 1,000 orcs versus 10 space marines kind of a thing. And now the game is balanced again because you've got 1,000 points in each side. Well, that's not really asymmetrical victory conditions either. It's a balanced game, but it's balanced in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
What you want to do with Dunkirk and some of these other asymmetrical victory games is like, okay, here's your one side that has like a lot more firepower. They have more units. Their units are better. They're more mobile. They have more firepower. They have better commanders. They have every single advantage there is. And then over here you have like, the guys who are basically running away. So how do you set this up in the victory conditions? You put the fulcrum for that lever like way over here, and that's where the leverage comes in. That's the kind of asymmetrical victory conditions that we're talking about. Yeah. The British don't have more units that just aren't as good. They have fewer units. They aren't as well equipped. They aren't as well trained at that point of the war, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in order to win, they just have to hold on for 3 turns. They have to hold that bridge for a certain amount of time. Or they have much, much easier victory conditions. And it's going to be a challenge for both players. Obviously, the player with the weaker force has got like much tougher, a much tougher battle to fight. But the player that has the Germans, you have to do everything. You have to do it now. You have to do it perfectly, and you have to do it in like 3 turns or less, and you have to do it without losing anybody, because that unit is then going to have to exploit that breach and go on to the next battle, go on to the next battle, go on to the next battle. It has to come through that battle almost unscratched. And that way, the strong player, or I should say the player with the stronger force, also has a very, very steep mountain to climb as far as his gaming challenge on that table.
Yeah. It's worth also mentioning that there are some other articles actually ongoing on the site at the moment by Alice2590, Dave Taylor, and some others. So we'll get some posts, we'll get some links in the show notes. We're going to have links in the show notes to all of these 25 themes that Jim has covered, but I'm going to also drop in some stuff so as you can see what some of the other contributors are doing at the moment. Jim's most recent article project was a big passion project, and that was the Saratoga Campaign, Jim. I have seen there's a show. I think it's either on Amazon or Netflix called Turn.
Yeah,
at the moment. That article series has got me looking at that show, going, I think I'm going to give this a go.
If you're going to go for it, I would suggest play with Sharp Practice, because I got to learn to play with it this year, and it does the sort of colonial warfare really well on tabletop.
Jim, the Saratoga Campaign, that covered where your namesake comes from, the Battle of Oriskany.
The Battle of Oriskany is one of the many battles that take place in the Saratoga Campaign, right?
So for anybody who's new to this, and we'll be honest here, lots of people are going to be new to the Northern American War of Independence campaign. Certainly here in Europe and stuff like that. What are the key defining kind of points of that campaign? What difference did that campaign actually make, and what is it that should draw people into saying, actually, it's worth going in and exploring that?
That's a couple questions. They're all great questions. Starting off in summary, what made the Saratoga campaign important was it was literally the Stalingrad of the American Revolution. It's the battle that turned the war around. Yeah. And it didn't win the war for the Americans at a stroke. The The war runs generally from 1775 to 1781 before the fighting ends. The treaty is not signed until 1783. Saratoga takes place in 1777, so it doesn't end the war by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But it's the first big defeat of a British army. I won't even say British army, a Crown army, because it's 1/3, and we'll get into this with the second part of the question, what makes Saratoga special as far as what makes it different, what makes it, different from other parts of the American Revolution, is that it's British, it's Native American, it's Loyalist American. A lot of American colonials were fighting there on the British side, on the Crown side. Native Americans, Germans. History commonly calls them Hessians, but it's really this coalitional force. But it's all loyal to the Crown. It gets surrounded. It gets cut off. It's forced to surrender. It's 5,000 or 6,000. The army starts off at 10,000. He finally has to surrender 5,000 or 6,000 of them.
Wow.
And it's the first big battlefield victory that the Patriots have in that war. And the immediate knock-on effect that changes everything is this is what convinces France to step in the war on the side of the Americans. And before that, there was no hope. I remember talking with Az and Justin about this. It wasn't even a mouse versus an elephant, kind of an analogy. It was a mouse versus a herd of elephants.
Yeah.
Talk about asymmetrical victory conditions. The colonial Americans versus the British Empire. There's not even it's not even a war at that point.
Yeah.
But once you get France in on the American side, it's an immediate change. And it's what eventually leads to Yorktown and American independence.
Yeah, yeah. It's an incredible article series. It really is worth going in and spending some time digging through that to understand it.
And
Jim,
an interesting part of history to have a look at.
I just want to say congratulations on the 100 again, mate. It's been absolutely fabulous watching it all come together. Do you want to allude to a couple of the future projects that we have in the pipeline?
Sure. Let's see here. The couple ones that we have coming in the pipeline. We're going to take a look at alternative history, because alternate history is something that we've touched on in some of the previous articles.
Yeah.
The previous article series, World War 2.5, was probably the first big successful one. Sea Lion, I think, is still like number 2 or number 3, as far as the number of comments that the article series has drawn down, which obviously is alternate history. These were generally like hard sci-fi or like realistic sci-fi, as far as this could have actually happened-ish, or it could have at least started. Who knows how it would have turned out? But could the Germans have invaded Great Britain in 1940? Yes. Flat out yes. Would they have won that campaign? Well, that's where you get into the debate, and that's what the article series is about. So we're going to take a look at doing alternate history, and the different ways you can do it. You can do it like kind of serious like that. You can do it kind of campy, all the way to the historical fantasy, basically stuff like Dust and Conflict 47, and where it gets really really off the wall. The 50th anniversary of the Tet Offensive is coming up. That's the biggest battle of the Vietnam War. So I don't want to give away too much or have too much of a spoiler alert warning underneath the go to this time code to jump to spoilers or whatever. But there might be a little something coming along on that.
That's great. That means I can get out all my sweaty jungle gear again, Justin.
No.
Get all the Vietnam tunes playing again.
Oh God!
Oh man, I'm looking forward to this.
Oh God! Here we go again.
Awesome stuff. Awesome. Well, look, Jim. I know. We want to keep some stuff in the tank. All right. So we'll not give too much away. But Jim, once again, massive congratulations and a heartfelt thank you from us on the team and on behalf of the entire community for everything that you put into these articles. I know that they are a huge undertaking. Yeah, and in the vein of thanks, I mean, number one, I obviously want to thank you guys. I can't publish this stuff without a website to publish it on. So all the work that goes into it behind the scenes, I mean, I type these articles up, I put together these images the best I can, and I just kind of dump them on guys like Ben, as Lance does some of the magazine layout and the front page graphics that go into that. Huge thanks to them. They spend a lot of time and effort, trying to make me look like, I know what the hell I'm doing, which it's not an easy task.
Thanks to all the collaborators. Again, probably 40% of these articles have been, there's been some sort of a collaboration. Anatomy of an Air Compressor was Nagchak. He pretty much wrote those articles. I mean, they're included in the 103, but he pretty much wrote those. I did the graphics. I provided some editing support, and, but those were really his articles. I kind of helped him get started on those. And the biggest thanks, of course, go out to the actual community themselves. I can't believe that people actually read this stuff. But it's great. It's every time you log on, when you have an article series up and you see a bunch of comments, you're like, holy cow, and people are, PMing you afterwards. You're like, we actually, and I do get this stuff. I get PMs from people now. I won't they're PMs, so I won't, embarrass anybody, but they come to me, in PMs, and they say, our group is launching this project largely because of this article series you wrote 2.5 years ago or something. Yeah. And now they have hundreds of miniatures, and they have a campaign, and they have this going and that going. So huge thanks to the community, obviously, everyone who's ever read or posted, especially posted a comment on any of these articles. I mean, it's why you're saying it's a lot of work to put this stuff together. Why does anyone do it? And it's quite frankly, that's the reason right there.
Yeah. And
I can't recommend it enough. Reach out to Ben, reach out to Az. If anyone has even the slightest idea, the amount of support that the Beasts of War team is going to give you, prospective writers and prospective collaborators, the amount of support the Beasts of War team is going to give you to help you get started, writing an article series or putting together some sort of content, it's really amazing. So,
and also, if you're not an article writer, but you want to you want to get involved in steering the direction of where we go on historical content or anything else, get involved in the comments or PM us, because the 2018 plans are still there's still room. I'd like to see at least another couple of themed weeks, Jim, where we can sit down maybe with one or more collaborators and start exploring other interesting aspects of warfare. From a gaming perspective, there's loads we can do. So,
2018 is the 100th anniversary of some of the most interesting, or biggest, or definitely the final battles of World War I. So we could definitely throw some effort at World War I. It's the 70th anniversary of 1943, which was a huge. 2018 is a huge part of World War II. So there's plenty to explore.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun year. Jim, thank you. We will go right back over to us again in the studio.
Hey guys, this is Dallas from Privateer Press, and you're watching The Weekender on Beasts of War. Paint on.
So congratulations once again to Jim for that. There, it's great. And the key for me was the whole collaborations. It's something we want to try and push a lot more next year. Getting community members collaborating with each other, collaborating with us. So as we gets everything all lined up, we're gonna start doing more with that. So if you fancy contributing articles and content and things like that to the community here, get in touch with us at beastsofwar.com, and we will make that happen. Oh, man, will we make that happen?
I am curious to see where James is going to go, because we do have coming up some really, really big anniversaries and stuff as we move forward into the later parts of the years and the decades here. So end of World War I, beginning of World War II. I'm curious to see what will happen if we're all still going at that stage.
If we're all still going.
If we're still running at this, yes.
What, at the end of World War I? World War I's long over.
No. Anniversary. We're 100-year anniversaries.
Dude, you were
long ago.
Totally doing my
anniversary.
Okay, let's get an update on some news. What's happening in the world?
First one's a big one, actually. This is one I've been waiting for, and I think a lot of people have actually been holding their breath to find out what happened, because Warcradle have come out and give us some information on Dystopian Wars and what basically they're going to be doing with bringing together what is essentially now 3 titles. So Dystopian Age is what they're calling it, with Armored Clash, Wild West Exodus, and Dystopian Wars essentially making up those three. The big kind of news from this more than anything was that Dystopian Wars will be staying as you know it, but it will now be bringing its entire world and amalgamating that together with what the Warploque guys already had with Wild West Exodus. So you're going to basically have the two joining together. So Wild West Exodus will continue to be the North Americas, small skirmish based, all the posse stuff that we've come to know and love, and all the stuff they have planned is all going to stay as is. Armored Clash is going to give you the Africa Wars. It's going to give you small hand-sized tanks. It's going to give you, oh god, the scales like 1 to 120. I think it was.
I have some of them here. If I scroll down,
there we go. See, look, that's fantastic advertising on their part, because that's exactly the image that popped into my head when I was thinking back to it. And that's going to give you your.
Is it not 10 mil?
It looks near it.
Yeah.
I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly what scale they're going to do.
Yes.
And in Dystopian Wars, they're going to look to bring some of those existing Wild West Exodus factions into the Dystopian Wars world by introducing just some fantastic new renders for the ships. Everything will become unified. They all work together, but they all will stay very much their own independent games. So everything you loved if you were a Dystopian Wars player will be staying around and just starting to grow now.
Except for the bits that won't.
Well, there'll always be
something. But for me, I think this is brilliant. This is what you want from a great piece of intellectual property. You want to be able to explore it in lots of different ways. For them, it was an obvious thing for them to do. Well, once they had that, was to say, well, actually, do you know what we can do? We can consolidate all of this. We can tell an even bigger story across the entire thing. And we can take what was great about each range in terms of its rules and aspects of its narrative and stuff that fit, and we can pull all of that in and tighten everything up. So what it does is it turns it into an even more complete hobby. Which is what we saw with the likes of Drop Zone Commander, Drop Fleet Commander. A way of exploring that universe in much more depth. You see it with a lot of the games, Warhammer 40k. There's been lots of different ways to explore that universe in different ways, and I love it. I think it's great.
They're doing a really good job of trying to ensure that both sides are getting pleased. Like, they're saying all the old minis are still going to be viable. They're going to be releasing PDFs and help guides. So if you have miniatures that might not be a direct mimic of what's new and coming out, they'll say, well, this will work just fine as this ship in the new range, and they're going to have it, so a like-for-like comparison sheet. They're going to make sure that you carry on playing exactly as you are now, while also having the opportunity to give their designers a chance to start to add their own flair to it. I think it's, as you said, like almost like a perfect scenario. They're incorporating it, which is better than just having their own stab and twisting it and maybe displeasing some of the old ones, old players. And then they're also not trying to completely rip it apart. They're saying, let's merge it, and that to me is the best the thing could have happened.
Well, do you know what? Considering the alternatives.
Yes, oh good. I could be spoke about what happens when your game quote unquote dies a few weeks ago.
Yes, there will be a handful of players. There always is a handful of players who are so totally invested in a world that they will feel it may break for them in a way that they may never recover from. You would like to think that maybe that's not the case. Maybe they'll be able to say, well, you know, I had a great time with that. Now I'm going to try and zen it out, and now I'm going to open my mind to something new. And maybe the transition will be a lot easier than what they might think. You know, but any company or any game developers that ever go to do something like this, you can't please everyone. You can't please everyone no matter what you go to do. So there has to be a bit of give and take from the community as well. That those guys who are heavily invested into what something was, well, sometimes you have to weigh it up and say, well, your alternative was nothing. So
the other thing is, we've seen what the guys at Warploque did with Wild West Exodus. They went in, they stripped down the game engine and made a better system to actually run and play the game. So I am curious to see what they're going to do with the play system for Dystopian Wars. If they're going to add some similar, feels and flavors from Wild West Exodus,
especially Armored Clash for me. I'm really keen to see what they're going to do with the Armored Clash.
They've already talked about taking some of the tanks that you're familiar with and some of what essentially are big siege units from Wild West Exodus and downscaling them into the Armored Clash world.
That's what we're seeing in the images here. So I think, if I'm right, this is one of the older ones, but this is the Rolling Thunder from the Union. And I forget the name of this one, but it's one of the Outlaw ones. So you're already seeing those being made there. There's also a little bit of concept art here as well. So I think you'll like this, Warren.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say this would be a faction you would play. Probably remind you of the Antarctic force you used to play.
Yes, yep.
And then we have this.
Oh, look at
a rework
that.
of Moby Dick with a what appears to be either a missile or a very large laser in his forehead.
It has to be a laser, because no...
Where would he store the missiles?
No, well, either that or it's just one huge eye.
Maybe.
You know, it's I think it may be just one huge eye. So it's Moby Dick with just one huge eye.
Okay.
So it's it could be.
Yeah.
It's
nice.
I'm going to deviate here, but have any of you been watching the new Blue Planet?
I've
No.
got a couple of episodes.
Oh, God.
Way back. The first episode was the dolphins. Made my little heart.
Oh.
What have you been seeing?
It's just incredible. You know, the stuff that's in it, Justin, and they have a creature.
Mm-hmm.
I swear to God, this is amazing, right? This is it's a fish,
Okay.
right?
It's a fish.
It's a looks like a big fish.
Big fish. Okay.
And he lives down in the deep.
In the deep,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his head is utterly see-through, right? So his gob isn't. He's see-through from about here. Do you know if we took the bald bit of you and we made it see-through, you would look exactly like this fish.
So basically from the beard just up and around,
Just
stopping at
from
the neck?
there and stopping at the neck. The rest of the fish looks like a fish.
Right.
But you can see through its head,
Right.
and you can see its kind of little green brains and its little eyeballs,
very weird.
and it's evolved. I don't know how. It's evolved a see-through head so as it can look up through the top of its own head. Its head is filled with jelly.
That makes
You
sense.
and this fish have so much in common, man.
No.
No, but it was amazing.
It sounds like it would look really creepy.
It is really creepy because like it just swims along and it's all kind of glowy as a lot of those fish are, and it's just you're looking at it going, I didn't realize something as awesome as you existed. Do you know, like you think to yourself, you pretty much know all the animals. So there might be the odd weird-looking bug with an extra dick or something, but you know, you think to yourself, I know all the animals. I know all the major animals. This is a major animal.
Really?
This is a major animal. This is a major fish, man.
Right.
The jelly-headed, see-through head fish. And then I got to thinking, how can something like
I'm
that?
very tempted to ask him to take the hand crank out.
No, you guys have all been seeing pictures of it.
Okay,
They've been
we'll
coming
have a
up,
look after
right?
the show.
And then I wondered, how could such a thing even evolve? For a moment, it had me even doubting the whole concept of evolution, because I was going, it does not compute. How does something like that even evolve? And then I worked it out. How it evolves. So it is. You would have had a fish, right, who was swimming along, who through some kind of a gene mutation, right, would have had a slightly more see-through head. Just very slightly, okay?
And he would have looked out of it and gone, this is great. Okay.
He would have caught the shadow
Yes, of
of
predators.
something trying to eat it from above and was more likely to survive as a result.
Yeah.
So his offspring then, there's a good chance of them having a slightly see-through head. And then of those offspring, maybe the gene mutation ramped it up a little bit, and then you got another one who had an even more see-through head, and he was even more likely to survive.
And all the non-see-through herd fish are dying off,
And
because
then,
they can't eat
then they're being outperformed by
Yeah.
the see-through head ones. Okay, so over time, then you then end up with this incredible-looking animal with a totally see-through head.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's microevolution, so you're pretty much on the right track. I mean, like even since World War One, we've actually seen evolution in humans because we're actually bigger now than we were during World War One. Because we have an increased amount of actual productivity and food that we're able to take in, we're able to grow bigger.
I'm not sure that's evolution. I think that's nutrition. Yeah, I think
Pay-for-lose are all about.
But that
think
is microevolution. Very small changes over
would
time.
be, yeah, but in the scales, we're talking deep time when you talk evolution.
Yeah.
Like micro
Yes, but
doesn't
that's
seem
the
micro enough, man.
Oh, fair
You know,
enough,
it's like
fair enough.
So, I think you're looking at more
would
like
say I'm right.
nutrition
Okay.
levels and things
Okay.
getting better there. So,
Okay.
yeah. You're gonna have me googling that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, it's amazing what a one-eyed whale of laser death brings to mind.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff from War Cradle. Right, next up, GW are returning to Middle Earth.
They
with
are.
The Battle Company's expansion.
Yeah, giving you a way to sort of bring together small war bands to fight, but have them actually grow together, have them actually evolve, and obviously die off as they fight in battle. I think the coolest thing for me is you're going to have 22 different options. I can't think of 22 different factions in the settings, but they're pulling from Lord of the Rings, they're pulling from The Hobbit, so here we go, like Jason Lee's Iron Hills.
Duncan Rhodes Arnor.
So it's nice to see that there's a huge amount of variety in this. Here we go, we've got some familiar faces. So this is the Master of the Lake Town. Played very well by Stephen Fry in the movie, so that's him in that. And then we've got the Lords of Erebor. Just absolutely, I'm ashamed that Ben's not here for this to celebrate the dwarves, but I think those are fantastic minis. Really, really powerful. I think they encapsulate that Hobbit dwarf rather than the traditional fantasy dwarf of the stoic closed arms kind of shield. They're far more dynamic looking. And then if you want to get up and going quickly, you have this General's Accessory Pack, which is essentially so your quick reference guide, your tokens, everything you need. There's scenario cards in there, so that's to get you up and going quickly. For me, I think it's great. I am glad they're embracing it, even though the movies have been out for, God, The Hobbit's finished now like 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Is that as long as that?
Yeah.
Maybe at least.
But the Lord of the Rings is timeless.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It is one of those. It's one of those ranges, one of those pieces of intellectual property that will just always be there.
Billy Connolly on a ram. I mean, it doesn't get old.
Exactly. But it even before the movies, Lord of the Rings was popular just as an intellectual property. You could tell that by so many other pieces of wargaming IP that just ripped it off. But it was
hard not to. It's so all branching.
It's always going to be there. I'm just really glad to see them continuing to push and support on it. So
for me, Lord of the Rings is one of the earliest ones I can remember that was a book conversion that really translated well to movie, to the big screen, and then just went mainstream with it. Can you think of any before it?
Can I think of any books?
Any movies that
were translated to a movie really well that went really mainstream before that? That's one of the earliest
You mean
ones
like
I can think of.
Jaws?
Okay.
Was Jaws a book?
Jaws was a book.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I suppose you got the thing as well.
I'm going to break it to you. Pretty much every movie ultimately has been a book beforehand, because that was where they pulled all of their stuff. I'm pretty sure Alien was a book.
Right.
I'm pretty sure Alien was a book. Yeah. But definitely Jaws would have been one that came to mind. Like Jaws was a popular book, but the movie just sent it stratosphere.
There was a picture on Facebook I saw recently of a bunch of people doing like, the way you go to the movie drive-ins, and you pull up in your car and you lean on the window, 50s style, and watch a movie on the screen. But they had done it at the side of a lake in dinghies. So, not dinghies, rubber rings. So everyone's sitting in one or two rubber rings each, like you do at a water park, right by water with moss and grass, and they're watching Jaws on a massive screen. Their feet are dangling in water. Could you take it tingle thinking about it?
Yeah, I think I would rather take out the dinghy for that one. I feel just a smidge safer than with my butt in the water.
There are some movies that just have a psychological effect on you. Okay, my mum and dad. I want to be careful about the phrase I use, but made me and Lloyd watch Jaws when we were aged about 5 and 3. Okay, wow. And we watched it from behind the sofa. The sofa used to be in the middle of the room, and we'd peek over and we'd watch it. And I will never forget your man.
As long as your ass points.
Oh, I will never forget your man being chomped down the boat and spitting out the blood and the red sauce and everything. We used to play that as kids, getting red sauce. But the effect that it had is nothing normal. Yeah. Lloyd and myself can't go into the sea. We went on holiday to I think it was Greece one year, years and years ago. We went on a holiday and we were swimming around the sea, and I noticed he kept looking behind him. And I was giggling because I also kept looking behind me and I couldn't stop it. And then one year it came to its climax. We were in, I think it was Cyprus, possibly, and we did snorkeling Is it snorkeling? Scuba diving. We
Okay.
did scuba
Full
diving.
gear.
Full gear.
Wow.
We did scuba diving together for the first time, and so we were really, really deep, like really deep. You know, there's certainly a good couple of houses. You know, a good 60 feet or something, or 30 feet anyway in depth. Felt deep to us. And I started to giggle into my thing, and I couldn't get a breath because I kept seeing Lloyd looking behind him, and I noticed I was giggling so much because I was doing exactly the same. It was extraordinary. It was fantastic seeing all the fish, and the water was crystal clear, but further on out there was always that kind of deep dark blueness. And you just look at it just the whole time. And there is a very famous photograph of myself and Lloyd that was taken of us under the water, and we're there suspended in the water like a couple of giant manatees, just a couple of walrus just suspended in the water like these two huge black figures. Oh, mad. But
I'll
Jaws.
say this now, I would never go
terrifying.
scuba diving.
No.
The idea of being just in the ocean under the water with nothing but a pipe in my mouth, a tank on my back, and a wetsuit. Nope, not doing it.
Well,
I would be
You weren't burning
terrified.
through all your oxygen
It
giggling
is
away.
wonderful.
I
It
would
is
be
absolutely
terrified.
wonderful. We were going
The
to
very
do
thought of it
it. We
gives
were
me a
going to
cold
do it
sweat.
at a shipwreck the next day. They'd offered to take us out to go
Wow.
and do a wreck, and we were all up for it. Except we were so sore the next morning from the scuba diving the day before. We said, "No, we're just so achy."
It uses muscles in a different
Yeah, it
way.
was just
your
muscles.
core and your
Yeah.
thighs and your.
And it was I was so gutted because we left them. I have never done it again since. But just I would. I understand you. I would never parachute.
Yeah, now I would quite happily parachute.
No, I would never parachute.
Really?
No, God, no. But I would quite happily go into the water again. Isn't that weird?
Well, this actually came up with me and John earlier this week. I think he said there's some wrecked U-boats off the coast somewhere where they actually do diving schools that take you out and take you down to the wreck.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to actually have a look about.
They're dangerous.
Oh yeah,
They are dangerous, you know. But it's
They
it's
just get me in a wee
interesting stuff.
submersible.
We James Cameron, just a wee. Is that the image you got?
Oh god, yeah.
I've got him replacing a submersible with James Cameron with just a very simple remote control, just up and down, and just doing his thing. Okay, next up we have right. If you're into your dwarves, you're gonna love this.
Yeah.
This is the Northern Sprite in the Hearthgut Hooch Hauler.
The Hearthgut Hoot Hauler. Hooch Hauler is just such an amazing name.
Hooch Hauler.
I love
Take
this
a
thing.
look at that. That is a flippin' awesome model.
You better like the brew they're bringing because they only bring in one and it's the size of a house.
How did you not like that? It's brewed, dragged by bears.
Yeah, and it's probably extremely high proof.
I love the thought that the little kegs below, underneath the shield, just behind the bears, is actually the bear's little personal supply of brew.
Yes.
So the bear can just get pissed as it's walking
Well, the
along.
bears have their own under their chins. If you look very carefully,
yeah.
Oh, they do,
the
yes.
bears have little ones under the chin. What a fabulous! No, here's the thing, right? If
Yep.
you're into your Warma hordes, that's an obvious pickup. That one,
Yeah.
It's
because
going to be huge. It's colossal, so it's going to be absolutely massive.
Batman
That
engine,
and the
not
fact
colossal.
Sorry.
if you paint that up even half well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's one that you could have down the stairs in a cabinet.
All right.
Do you know what I mean? That model is such a talking piece.
Yeah.
That anybody with any kind of red blood in them at all will want to talk about that. So that's a model just to pick up, just to own, just to paint, and just to put out, so that the next time folk come round to your house or whatever, they'll go, "Oh, what is that?" Because they will absolutely have to ask. But if you're a dwarf player,
Yeah.
if you're a collector of dwarves,
There is only a couple of Trollkin on it. You could
Yeah,
very easily convert
very
that.
easily convert that.
Yeah.
Take them off. You know, I would quite happily take that into my Lord of the Rings army. Ah, man,
What
that was
scenario that would make
last thing you might
escorting
have to
that
do
through a
is
mountain
take
trail?
This little dude off here, and then close the hatch.
yes.
The only part that might be a little tricky.
No, I bet you that dude is not molded into that.
I don't know.
I guarantee you, he's not molded into that.
Okay, well, we'll have to wait to get one in.
Yeah, this is the point where I end up being wrong, because when he's right, he's right.
Yeah, my
But
favorite
looking
part of
at
it though is the barrel launcher on the top. So this thing has two side-mounted flamethrowers
Yeah.
and a barrel launcher on top, which essentially launches oil barrels at people, so that whenever they then get hit by the flames, they then take extra damage.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Isn't it just awesome?
Yeah.
The other army that could work with that would be Kador. It'd just be filled full of vodka.
Vodka.
Yeah, raw potato vodka. Yeah, sold.
What do we know about its stats, Justin?
Well, you've got the stat card is actually up on the Privateer Press data card site, so I'd say it'll not be long before it's into War Room. But it's construct, immune to cold, does fire damage, does fire continuous effect. Like I said, you've got the 2 torches on the side, which are essentially 2 flamethrowers. You've then got the cask bomb up top. And yeah, it's just an interesting piece. 18 points though. A little bit expensive to put on the tabletop. This will eat up a fair bit of your 75-point force.
Yeah.
But it's nice. I like it.
I think you need that in a 24 pack, and every time it has a success, you crack open a brisky to celebrate.
You're in the right frame of mind. I've seen tournaments where people get absolutely wasted.
Absolutely. Right. Last update that we have is some new stretch goals and add-ons for core space.
This is a big one. Yeah, Colin's been doing a really good job of continually updating their stretch goals. I think they've more than breached the £100,000 at this point, and they're doing very well as they kind of head into their last week now. So they've got a bunch of new traders.
2 full new crews.
Yeah, which you can check out here. Really like the Juggernaut, actually. That nice kind of powerful pose of I'm just walking. I'm just walking here. Just get out of my way.
Honestly, I love Mac. He kind of reminds me on Big Hero 6 a little bit.
He's got Big Hero 6 face, yeah.
Yeah. There is definitely a nice piece of design about that that has a
expression with only 2 eyes.
And a familiarity about it. And yeah, I really like that too.
The terrain's getting a bit insane. Well, I mean, which is what we expect. So we're just getting lots and lots of more walls, lots of more incidental pieces that are just going to add to the detail.
Yeah.
For me, even more
more minis.
Look at those.
Yeah.
Those harvesters are actually, there's something with the iRobot about them, and this is, you talking about the expression and that familiarity. With a single line down the face, all of a sudden a mini turns from being friendly to just actually really shifty looking.
It's really sinister.
Yeah,
isn't
just
it?
one little bit of design. The big thing that really jumped out to me were these guys here. So there's a couple of new like terrain setting packs that have come in, and Colin's done some wonderful videos on these on the Kickstarter page as well. And this one here, this is great. This is Shootout at Zed's, which is basically like it's a pub. So you've got your own little, and this is just something you can drop a few elements into the terrain, and all of a sudden you've turned a basic room into whatever kind of pub you want, really.
Yeah.
He actually did a big look as well, Colin, at the Titan Place. Here we go. So it looks amazing there, right? Now we had Colin in the studio, and it's hard to get across to people just how good this terrain is until you're physically playing with it and opening the crates and opening the doors. This has shields that you can like. Remember as a kid you just had those little plastic film things you could open and close with your finger? Yeah. It's that kind of effect where since once the power station, you get the power down, all the shields open up and they disappear so you can run through. And he put a video up on the site, and I think Justin, you pop a picture
I grabbed a screenshot.
That gives you an idea of the scale.
Look at that!
The picture doesn't do it justice until you see someone standing beside it.
Goodness me! So that's the Titan Pledge.
That's the Titan Pledge. Absolutely fantastic.
Tons of fun.
Looking.
No, so let's, for anybody that doesn't know what Core Space is, so Core Space is it's a sci-fi skirmish game that feels quite RPG in its.
It feels quite Firefly.
Yeah, it has a feel of the kind of the Star Wars, the Firefly kind of.
Your smugglers, your runners,
traders, and stuff like that. You're dashing in and out. It is fully interactive with its terrain,
which is the bit I love.
So the crew that you build is actually interacting with the terrain, and what all the little ammo boxes and stuff like that
to get new gear.
They all have little tokens in them. So you're pulling out the gear. There's a console where you keep track of all of your characters. It has a legacy kind of a system to it as well, so your characters evolve and die and get injured and so on and so forth. It is just incredibly well thought out. And whenever you get that, all that terrain is already colored like that. All you have to do is just basically open your big box of terrain and build your sci-fi space station or your whatever it is that you're going to basically go in and try and rob, and then your crew, and it has kind of things there for you to design your own ship, and you can name your own ship, and it's just amazing.
One of my favorite things about this game is it's me versus you versus 3 in-game factions which are AI controlled.
That's right. There's civilians are AI.
Yep.
Who else?
Purge?
You've got the Purge, who are AI. and
Yep.
It's actually 4 then, because the civilians are sort of with you, sort of against you. You've then got the intergalactic corporations, so the police.
Yep.
And then you've got local gangers.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 3 different AI-controlled opponents that can turn up and really ruin your day. You've got the civilians who can sometimes join you, actually become part of your crew for a mission, or turn around, scream, and go, "Ah, you shouldn't be here," and shoot you in the face.
Yeah.
If you're into the gameplay, we've got 2 gameplay videos up so far on
Yeah.
YouTube. You can go and check those out if you're interested in seeing how it plays when Justin sat down.
Yeah,
with
because
Colin.
from that you can
Yeah.
get to see the minis, you can get to see the incredible terrain, and you can get a feel for the gameplay itself. It's one of those games that is so well joined up, so well thought out.
Those player boards you mentioned were a big thing, a bit of smart design for me, because you only have so much space in your inventory, and different weapons, depending on how old they are, how new they are, what tech they are, what size they are, will take up different slots in your space. So you're going to have to make decisions about what you're bringing with you, and those little pegboards that Colin's put together work fantastically for tracking everything you need to throughout the game as you're upgrading, learning, changing your characters. It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
Very cool.
absolutely. Okay, that's our news for this week. Right, next up, we have a chat. Az is going to have a sit down with Alex from Warploque to talk about Arcworlde.
Yeah, I was really, really happy to get Alex on and actually have a bit of a sit down with him, because he's just completed his delivery of his 3rd Kickstarter with Troubles in the North for Arcworlde, which is a fantastic success for him, because he's still a young guy in the industry and really a 1-2-man operation most of the time. So we had to sit down to chat about what's happening with the game, where it's going to go to next, hopefully getting it into retail, and also a little bit about where he came from and how he got his start in the industry. So we'll go and have a chat with Alex.
Become a general of mighty armies at the Kings of War Hub. Take command of elves, dwarves, and orcs in this game of massed fantasy combat on beastofwar.com. Fight for the Iron Kingdoms as a warcaster. Take control of the mighty jacks, arcane devices, and dark sorceries to bring the fight to the War Machine Hub on beastofwar.com.
Hello everybody, it is Az here with Beasts of War, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined today by Alex from Warploque Miniatures. Hello Alex, how are you doing? How are you doing today, buddy?
Not too bad, thank you. How are you, sir?
Yeah, very good. Very, very happy to have you here. And the reason we obviously want to talk to Alex is it's a big time at the minute for you guys. You've just sort of essentially delivered, you've just completed the backer pledges for Troubles in the North. So we wanted to bring you in and talk about what's going on. But for anybody that doesn't know doesn't know you, Alex, or doesn't know what you guys at Warploque Miniatures do, can you give us a bit of background about your history?
Yeah, sure. So my company is called Warploque Miniatures. It was founded by me a few years ago when I was at university, and the game that we produce is Arcworlde, which is a whimsical, kind of quirky fantasy skirmish game that's all sculpted by myself. I mean, I have a team of guys working on the rules and things like that, but most of the creative side is all a bit of a brainchild of mine, and we try and specialise in making the game as fun as possible. Because one of the main kind of driving inspirations behind the game was the fact that most miniatures games, and in fact most kind of fantasy and sci-fi games at the moment, are really grim, dark, and take themselves far too seriously. Everyone's going to die. Yeah, in the eternity of war, everyone is. Whereas I'm more from the Terry Pratchett school of fantasy. I think that there's so much more to like the genre than just wanting to kill each other.
Yeah.
I really try and kind of emphasize the quirkiness and character of the characters that I make in the world that I designed.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of, as I said, the main inspiration behind Arcworlde is, at the end of the day, we're all grown men and women playing with toy soldiers, so we want to have as much fun as possible.
It's absolutely a mantra that we share in Beasts of War. I think that we're all here to enjoy our hobby in whatever form it takes. And if you can enjoy something that's light and has a bit of comedy, and even if it is skirmish or battling based, having those little undercurrents makes a huge difference to the engagement you can have with it. And so Arcworlde is a game, like, can you tell us a little bit about the world? Like, what is the setting that you've drawn up?
Okay, so as I was saying, the setting is a fantasy land, but with more of a kind of a humorous, quirky tint to it. I mean, it's very derivative of the kind of fantasy that I've enjoyed growing up. I mean, Discworld and Terry Pratchett has been the biggest source of inspiration to me, but I love all kinds of fantasy, like in history, like The Edge Chronicles, that was another inspiration. And very like kind of Douglas Adams, a bit more kind of
Absolutely.
Yeah, that humor to fantasy that is the main kind of what really attracted me to it at first. And my own personal kind of inspirations is I love history and I love folklore and fairy tale, and a lot of that has gone into the designs and the characters and stuff as well.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the great things about doing fantasy as a job and as a world is that you can essentially pick and choose what your inspirations are. So, like, one country might be inspired by medieval Europe, one country might be inspired by ancient Greece or Rome, another country might be inspired by Napoleonic Britain. Yeah, I'm not shackled by having to be completely historically accurate, and definitely have a bit of artistic license there as well.
And one thing we do see in the concept art of Arcworlde, it translates very clearly into what you end up playing with the sculpts and the minis on the table. So can you tell me a little bit about just how you went from art to minis, why you decided, because they're very stylized. Well, obviously we'll get the wonderful Lance to put in some pictures of some of the minis. They have a real character about them. So what's that process like for you? How do you end up getting to that finished mini?
Well, I kind of do things a little bit backwards compared to most companies, I guess, because a lot of companies employ different people to do the sculpting, different people to do the artwork. So usually they do the concept, then they'll do the model and such like that. Whereas for me, because I do everything myself, usually I actually sculpt the model and make it up as I go along. And once it's finalized and I know how the design works in a 3D space, then I'll do the artwork afterwards, which is, completely not the right way to do this. And usually when I'm doing stuff for like Kickstarter projects and things, I will do concept art to kind of give backers or customers an idea of what I am going to make, but it's purely for their benefit rather than mine. I actually prefer working essentially as I go along because I don't feel restricted by what I think, I've got to keep this to what I came up with 3 months ago. It means the whole kind of sculpting process is very dynamic for me, and I can swap and change and, let it develop as time goes on. And then when it's finished, that's when the design is finalized, and I can then do all the artwork based on the sculpts.
Wow. And on a personal note, I mean, I'm curious for myself, just for you, how long have you been sculpting, or like what, have you always found the sculpting bit easier to start at that point, or has it always been that way?
Well, I've always been an arty person. When I was younger and the kids were outside playing football and rugby, I was sat inside drawing dinosaurs, and it's always been a very much of a personal creative expression for me. I've always been arty. I got into miniatures and wargaming when I was about 10, 11, with the release of the Lord of the Rings films. In 2001, I was 8, and Games Workshop started doing those magazines with little figures that you got in them, and that's how I was introduced to the wonderful world of wargaming. And I had collected Lord of the Rings for a while, but I always felt very restricted because I felt like I had to stick to what the films had done. So I couldn't create any new characters, and I couldn't, come up with interesting color schemes and things because people would just say, well, that's not how it looks in the film. So when I discovered Warhammer Fantasy Battles, it was a real kind of eye-opening moment for me because I was suddenly presented with this, plethora of inspiration and ideas, and essentially an almost open world that I could come up with anything I want. So that was a real kind of pivotal moment for me because I thought, oh, brilliant, I can actually make my own characters. So I converted stuff and things, chop and change heads and stuff. I first started using green stuff in any particular way probably when I was about 14. So this would have been in 2007. And I started a number of blogs online, on the Warhammer forum, on Warseer, the Ogre Stronghold, Chaos Dwarves Online, and I, kept posting up my projects. I mean, at that time, I wasn't really interested in the gaming side. I just enjoyed the lore of the Warhammer world, and I just came up with my own characters and things. And yeah, I started with green stuff, just kind of, converting a few bits, like adding a cloak here, maybe changing that, and steadily over time, it built up and built up and built up, and I started making full models.
Yeah. And
by that point, I was probably about 16, just going into my first year of college, the sixth form. And it was about that time that people started saying to me, Alex, have you thought about, selling these? They're really good. Like, maybe you could make a bit of money on the side. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. So I was working on a project for my A-level art, where I was creating lifelike, well, not lifelike, but my own style of trolls. And I was taking inspiration from Scandinavian lore and from hairless chimpanzees. Their kind of body structure and their coloration and like the mottled skin patterns and things, and all that kind of culminated into these troll ideas. And then I had ideas of how they would adapt and evolve to different environments and things. So I had like a hill troll, a forest troll, a river troll, a mountain troll. Yeah. And I sculpted those from scratch. And I'd actually just finished a commission from a company called Maelstrom Games. And I used the money from that to have my first models cast.
Wow.
And it was such an exciting moment. And I was like, all these people have been following my work for all these years, and finally I'm going to be able to, sell them some of my work. And I put them on the website, and they didn't sell.
Oh no!
Yeah, I could barely give them away.
Oh my word!
And I kept on making new models and releasing new casts and things, and it was so difficult to try and get people to buy them. And I think it was probably one of the downsides of me being completely self-taught. Yeah. That my style was very different to what was on the market at the time. I mean, this was before the real golden age of independent miniatures companies. Yeah. I mean, this was still back in the day when it was mainly Games Workshop, War Machine, that type.
But it's worth noting that, because obviously we're having yourself on, and I guess, Alex, in the grand scheme of things, the timeline of minis, you're still kind of young. You're still in your infancy. You've got many years to go yet.
It's crossed.
Yeah.
Crossed, yeah.
But it's worth noting that you have 3 successful Kickstarters under you at this stage. So that's a pretty huge accomplishment. So to deviate a little bit, we'll get back to Arcworlde. Don't worry, and we'll talk more about Arcworlde. But what was Kickstarter like for you then? How did you find using that as your kind of platform?
It's quite. I mean, the first Kickstarter I did was in 2013, and this was just after Kickstarter had been introduced to the UK. Yeah. Because up until that point, it was a purely American phenomenon. You couldn't physically have a Kickstarter project unless you had an American bank account and stuff like that. So I'd actually idea of doing a Kickstarter to release a so far unnamed war game for a while. And then I went on holiday to Florida, and whilst I was out there, I actually created an American bank account and used my uncle who lives out there as like house details. So I had like an American address. Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm going to beat the system and I'm going to do it. And then I got home and found out that they were releasing it in the UK anyway. So I'm like, oh. But so this was when Kickstarter was still a relatively new thing. So I was kind of amongst the first of the independent war gaming companies to really utilize it, and it was a bizarre, incredible experience that I just haven't been able to capture since. Yeah, because I kind of felt like it was a new frontier. And my initial goal was only £5,000, just enough to get a few models cast up and work on my book and things. And it just went bonkers, absolutely bonkers. I had no idea how it was doing so well. And, all these people that I assume had been following my stuff and just crawled out the woodwork and supporting. There was such a buzz and excitement around it, and it was such an incredible kind of experience for me, because it was the first time that I'd ever really, I suppose, like seen, like because lots of people have always been enthusiastic about my work, but always quite reluctant to part with their money for it. I mean, at the time before I did the Kickstarter, I wasn't resentful, but I was like, oh, you know, people say they like it, but they don't like it enough to want to buy things. So when I saw, you know, these hundreds and hundreds of people putting all this money for this idea, I mean, it was just an idea at that point, because, you know, back in those days with Kickstarter, you literally could just put up an idea and say, yeah, if this works, I'll do it. I was just amazed at the support. I mean, the final total was almost £60,000. So
there's a certain comfort, like Kickstarter as a backer using Kickstarter. Once you see that a project's hit, you know, 200, 300, 400, 500 people, you then almost become more willing, I find, to get involved in it, because you know there's going to be a bit of a community for the game there. You know it's going to have a bit of support. When you are just talking to someone face to face at a convention, or you're seeing their new idea, you can really like something, but if you don't have the context of, am I going to get to play with this? Am I going to get to do anything with it? Sometimes you don't really have the buy-in to really make you part with your cash, as you put it.
Oh, definitely. And the community aspect was very much a whole part of the process. You know, the comment section was incredibly active 24/7, because we had backers from all over the world in many, many different time zones. So, I mean, the guy who was helping me out at the time, a guy called James Griffiths, we almost had to take it in shifts to kind of work on the project and keep the page running. So he would kind of stay up late, well into the night, answering emails and responding to inquiries, and then he would go to kind of wind down. I mean, he was a bit of an insomniac, so he didn't sleep very much. Whereas for me, I was knackered the whole time, because as well as doing all that, I was also frantically sculpting and coming up with concept on the fly. Because we'd left all of our stretch goals behind so early on, because I never expected it to do so well. So I was literally like, oh, right, I need another stretch goal. Yeah, that'll do. Draw it. It was that bad. It was such a maelstrom of activity. Because that's the thing. I was having to think on my toes and keep these crowds and crowds of hundreds of people begging for more stuff, throwing money at me. And this is the first time I'd ever experienced something like this. I'd gone from literally years of not being able to sell anything at all to that, and I was like, oh, that's amazing.
Well, I think, the bonus from the outside looking in at the projects and the Kickstarters, Alex, is that it looked fantastic. It didn't look like you were ever flying by the seat of your pants, so you did a very good job of maintaining that.
After a month of that, I was mentally and physically destroyed. I mean, it's quite funny. My mum always says, because I put a little picture up on the front, because back in those days, I think it's still the case now, once a Kickstarter project is finished, you can't change the front cover at all. You can't, swap and change things. So the last thing I did before I ran out of time was put a picture of myself saying, thank you very much for everything. This has been an incredible experience. And my mum said, why did you put that picture on? I said, what do you mean? She said, you look manic. Because I was. The whole thing had just been an incredible roller coaster for me. So at the end, I was a bit wired. So and it kind of took me by surprise, and because it was so much more popular than I could ever expect, it took me a lot longer than I originally expected. I mean, from when the project started, I decided to work on an entirely new write of the core game. So the initial rules that I launched the project with were completely different to the ones that ended up being used in the game. So I spent a year sculpting all the models, and then I spent a year working on a lot with lots of other people on the game side, as well as all the artwork and the graphic design and things. Because other than the actual manufacture of the products, like making the books, making the models and stuff, I pretty much do everything except the rules. Because I've always been more of a hobbyist, personally. I do enjoy gaming, but I don't know it well enough to be able to come up with complex game design.
Absolutely.
Like I could give it a go, but it would be nowhere near to the quality that I would want. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So I've over the years I've used the help of a number of extremely talented individuals to help me out with that, and a lot of very dedicated fans and backers of the Kickstarter who've been able to play test things and give me their ideas of how, because these guys are proper gamers. I mean, I like a bit of Zombicide every now and then, but these guys live, sleep, and breathe gaming. So it's really, really
tell me
cool to have their feedback and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so you've talked about the people you worked with there to develop the rule books and the game. So for anyone who might be looking to get into Arcworlde, what kind of game can they expect on the tabletop then? How does it play?
Well, Arcworlde is a fantasy skirmish game. So I wanted it to be a really quick, fun game, very casual, that you could play with your friends over a drink and things like that. So I really wanted to emphasize that fun, casual aspect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a player-by-player activation thing, so you're not waiting around all the time for people to play. So you will move a model, the other person moves a model. So you're constantly active and engaged with what's going on the tabletop. I mean, it's really characterful. Like the rules emphasize the characterfulness of the sculpts. So your models on the tabletop, they aren't just nameless grunts.
Yeah.
Each of them have their own kind of rules. Each of them have their own abilities, and some of them have quite amusing rules that can really introduce quite a lot of humor into the gameplay.
Yeah.
For example, one of the big I'm very keen to talk about is the fact that you can use monsters in the game.
Yeah.
So you don't the factions. We have 9 factions at the moment, 6 core factions, and 3 factions that are introduced in Troubles in the North. But you can play as the wild monsters that roam about the landscape.
Oh, wow.
So if you want to play as a dragon
Yeah.
or a pack of trolls, you can do that.
Yeah.
Because for me, I love monsters. I love sculpting monsters, I love drawing monsters, and I love monsters in tabletop wargaming. They're centerpiece miniatures. And if you could have your entire force as this centerpiece model that you've spent hours and hours and hours painting and putting together and working on the base, then how incredible would that be?
That really is, yeah.
Who doesn't want to play as a dragon or a giant and things? And so a lot of the monsters, at least the carnivorous monsters, have a rule called gobble, which means that rather than activating as you would normally do, where you'd have access to movement, various different attacks and abilities and stuff, you can just say, right, I'm going to try and eat this guy. So you as the monster can attempt to just swallow the model in close contact with you whole, and then they're removed from the game.
Yeah.
They're eaten. But there is a chance that if you do eat them and the model is slain shortly afterwards, the opposing player can attempt to cut them free.
Oh no!
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
For example, imagine this scenario: you've got a troll and a soldier, and the troll's just eating the soldier, and then the soldier's friend has gone in and slain the troll and tried to cut his mate out and pulled him out and gone, bloody hell, that was horrible. And that was actually, that idea was proposed by a very, very close friend I actually met through a show. He was at a Malifaux tournament and he walked past the demo stand for Arcworlde and he was like, hey up, what's this? And now he's like one of my best play testers.
Yep.
He comes to a lot of our shows and he's one of the most enthusiastic people about Arcworlde.
Yep.
And he's the best person to talk about the intricacies of the game, and he makes it really fun as well. And he was actually the person on the day that I met him was like, you know what would be really funny, like if you could cut them out of the model, because this was still in the stage where I'd made all the models but I hadn't printed the rule book yet.
Yeah.
So that was still very much in kind of development, and the core rules were there, but they were still being tweaked before put in the rulebook and what printed. So I was really quite happy that he managed to suggest that one before I got it, because it's been fan favorite, and people love it.
And for anyone who's interested, it is very fantasy driven. I've got a few of the factions here. I'm gonna read them because I'm gonna murder them. So you've got the Albionician. No, go on. Correct me. How do I say it?
Albionicans, no, you got it right.
Yes, so they're your traditional human soldiers. So you've got your halflings, you've got undead pirates of the Black Coast, which to me is just a sentence I absolutely love. You've got the wild elves of Caledon, and you've got the jungle gremlins of Chak-Itza.
Yeah.
Is that right? And then, here we go, I'm gonna murder this one. The Byorks of the Cajun Swampland. Is that right?
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah, nailed it.
Like I've heard different people pronounce. Some say Bayork, some people say Byork.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and going back to what we were talking about before about the different inspirations for the game and the characters and stuff like that. I mean, when I was coming up with these factions, each of them have a very distinct inspiration and completely different from each other. So, for example, the Albionicans, my inspiration for them was Napoleonic Britain.
Wow, okay.
But if gunpowder wasn't invented.
Oh.
So they have that kind of Napoleonic look with the red coats and the shakos and stuff, but they still have halberds and armor and things like that. And me as a creative person, trying to imagine how that would work without gunpowder is one of the real pleasures of working on the really early stages of the game. I mean, in second edition, which is what I'll be working on after Troubles in the North.
Oh wow! Okay.
The timeline has progressed a little bit, so that has been set. It's going to be set about 5 years after the events of Troubles in the North. So the Albionicans will have become a little bit more technologically advanced, and I'll be introducing something called an arc-lock rifle.
Oh, spoilers!
Yeah, so it'll look like a flintlock rifle, but instead of using gunpowder to fire pellets, it uses like magical energy.
Okay. Oh wow!
Because another core part of the game is a substance called Arcanite. Arcanite is this magical crystal that is essentially like a magical conduit. Channels energy, it stores energy. And in the game, it's you use it quite a lot in scenarios, and you can use tokens to improve your character's stats and magical abilities and things. So I'm currently working with my game designer Gobbo, who is kind of coming up with really interesting ways of how we can introduce that kind of magical element to technology. Yeah, how it might change the game mechanics and things, and how it might even change the look of the factions. I mean, I'm working on the first few miniatures for the game. I've just finished the new Albionican trooper model, and I've slightly tweaked the uniform design to show how they might change over time and in response to new technologies and things like that.
I think we'll have to twist your arm, Alex, at some point to get some early shots of what those tests and first sculpts are going to look like. I'll give you some poking and prodding afterwards, and we'll make sure to get some out on the site, maybe, if you're willing.
Oh, very much so. I'm sure I can show you a few sneak peeks.
I wanted to touch upon, because we mentioned 3 Kickstarters. So you had the Arcworlde, the first one. You had the Troubles in the North, which is the one that's just essentially getting delivered now, that finished last year. But for me, one of the ones that stood out to me, which I thought was really interesting, going back to the point about you talking about players playing as monsters, was the Battle for Troll Bridge. Because that starter set was a way for characters to play with warbands or as the troll. Is that right?
Yeah, very much so. Because one of the things that I looked at when I was thinking, how do I get people into this game? Because as you said, one of the things that people look at when getting into a game is, well, who am I going to play this with? Is there going to be a community out there which will allow me to explore this game, play this game with people? So I thought a really good way to do that would be to have a starter box set which could be used by as many people as possible. So you could bring it into a game club and say, right, I've found this new game. like, who wants to play with me? There's 4 players here, because the start set that we do does have models for 4 people to play the game.
Fantastic.
So we have the Albionicans in there, we have the Halflings, we have the Beorcs, we also have Old Grog the River Troll, who he in himself is a warband. Harkens back to what I was telling you about how you can play as monsters in Arcworlde. You know, they are their own playable faction, essentially. But you can also integrate them into your warbands.
Yeah.
You can hire them as warbands, so it could be either a 4-player game, got 4 people playing as each of the factions.
Yeah.
It could be a 2-player game where you can have 2 sides against each other, and you can hire the troll to be part of your warband.
Yep.
Or you can actually be a 3-player game, and the troll can be a free agent. So there are rules in the supplement that comes with the box that allows the troll to essentially, move automatically around the board, reacting to the actions of the players.
Fantastic!
Have this kind of rogue element in the game, which can be quite interesting. So you can choose to kind of team up, get rid of him as quickly as possible, and then kind of crack on with the main game, or you can almost goad him into going after your opponent, which I've seen quite well.
That's really nice. I like the versatility of that box. It's one of the reasons I want to touch upon it, because it's traditionally we see a lot of 2-player starter sets, and it's 2 warbands. So this being making sense for 2, making sense for 4, but even when it's 4, one of those being a monster, to me was a real highlight. Like, I really liked that approach, that design aesthetic as well. So, I mean, one thing I want to make people aware of as well, if you are looking into Arcworlde, obviously we'll put lots of pictures and stuff up so you can see what the minis look like, but have you got any favourite minis? If you were saying, what mini defines Arcworlde to you, or what was one of your favourite ones to sculpt, you say that encapsulates the game?
Oh, that's a very hard question. I do love my monsters. I really, really enjoy working on monsters. They've always been definitely the fan favourites. And I think one of my favourite models, and it was actually one of the first I sculpted for the game. I mean, I actually sculpted it before Arcworlde was a game. And I kind of put it to one side for years, thinking, this is a bit weird, no one will like this. And then when the Kickstarter in 2013 came out and I'd run out of stretch goals, I was like, I better come up with something. So I put this model on, this model I'd sculpted 2 years previously, and people loved it. And it's the Undead Leviathan. Yeah. Which is a zombie whale with a pirate ship strapped to its back.
I think that really, from how you've described Arcworlde, I do agree that encapsulates it perfectly.
Yeah. And it's a real Marmite model. I mean, in Marmite, for you guys who aren't in the UK, it's this kind of spread that people have on toast. Yeah. It's like one of their main kind of marketing campaigns is that you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah, we've made Justin eat Vegemite in the studio, thanks to all of our friends in Australia before. For our backstages, we had him eat that on a vlog. So there'll be a few of the Beast of War community are well familiar with loving or hating that kind of stuff.
But this is the thing, like, it's a perfect metaphor for this model, because some people love it, and people have come across to me on Facebook or in gaming shows, and they've just gone, "What is that? That is cool. I don't know anything else about your range, but I want that." And I've introduced new players to Arcworlde just by them liking that model.
Fantastic.
And other people just be like, "I don't get it. Yeah. Like, what's its point?
What's it for?" Yeah.
Yeah, what's it for?
And you're sitting there going, "Open your imagination."
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for me as an artist, I love monsters. I love creating monsters. And going back to your original question, in Troubles in the North, in particular, another miniature that has kind of elicited the same response has been the Blood Oak, which, I mean, if going into the fluff a little bit, it's this parasitic tree which infects a host and then kills it off, but uses its skeleton to move around and find new victims.
Wow.
And it kind of grows to these humongous sizes. I mean, I'll give you photographs of this creature, but it's this tree that has infested the skeleton of this gigantic troll-like creature. And once again, and some like, oh my god, that's cool. I really like it. And other people have been like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't see what it is. I don't understand it. Where is its eyes? I really like my dragons and trolls and things. I think my trolls in particular have a very special place in my heart because they were
yeah, absolutely.
Off. So I always try and sculpt as many different trolls as possible. One of the ones that I've just recently done, which is one of my favourites, is a sea troll. Because one of my, harking back to the original designs of the trolls, I do try and think of how they would evolve to live in different environments.
Yeah.
And I would look at real life animals and how they've evolved and adapted to different environments. So the sea troll I based on a walrus.
Oh, okay.
So I thought, what other mammal out there lives in the ocean, is semi-aquatic, is big, fat, smelly, and aggressive? And I thought, yeah, a walrus would do quite well. And my river trolls are based on hippopotamuses, which is what Old Grog is from Battle for Troll Bridge.
So if you want to get into sculpting, you need to be paying attention to David Attenborough. Take it to
It really is true. Like, the animal kingdom is an amazingly inspirational source for me, because I've always been very interested in anatomy and biology. Before I started doing this full time, I studied human genetics at university, which is how I actually came to Nottingham, and before I gave it all up to make toys for a living. But being able to kind of study animals and how they evolve and how they adapt over millions of years, it kind of grounds your creature designs in reality. And I think it kind of helps people like accept them more as actual creatures if you try and think, okay, well, yes. So it's one of the reasons why my dragons don't have wings, for example. Like I made an active kind of creative decision at the start of Arcworlde that my dragons would be more lizard-like. They wouldn't be these majestic, intelligent flying creatures, that spit magic and fart out rainbows. They would actually be beasts. And in fact, one of the main inspirations for my dragons was one of the old Ray Harryhausen films. I think, was it Sinbad? What's the film where like the dragon is having a fight with the Cyclops?
You're lost on me, unfortunately, with that one, Alex. I'm afraid. I'm sure there will be somebody out there in the comments will keep us right.
No, and I saw that it was a four-legged lumbering beast, and I thought, that's cool for a dragon. Because you don't see that many of those nowadays.
No, absolutely not. No, you're exactly right. There's definitely this split between the fantasy, almost Dungeons and Dragons, and the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings dragons, and then your kind of Godzillas. Like you don't often see as you've described yours. We'll get pictures up of them with the more bipedal, four-legged, no-winged kind of guys. So to kind of wrap up a little bit, I'm aware the rulebook as it currently stands and all the stat cards for all the factions are now on your website for free download. Is that right?
Yeah, that's fine.
And you now do have your own store separate from the Kickstarters as well.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do have my own web store. I'm currently, now that the Kickstarter has been shipped, I'm working on getting all the products ready for the Troubles of the North to go on there as well. And I'll be kind of rejigging the website to make sure that new players to the game are able to access all of the gameplay material. So because it was a really big important thing for me is that I wanted people to be able to kind of test out the game before they invested in it. So they can, obviously there's lots of pictures of the miniatures and then things there so they can see how the game plays. I've got some videos explaining some of the gameplay mechanics as well, kind of going through step by step how certain things work in the game, because I think that kind of visual aid can be very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
How to play a game.
Yeah, very, very much so. And your little narrative videos as well on the site where you kind of give a little bit of the backstory and talk about some of the explorers, especially with the troubles in the north bit, where you had all the exploring up there and what the characters were finding was really interesting to me. Like I like that approach both from a rules and from a narrative aspect, because clearly the story and how the characters are developing are key to all the games you play on the tabletop from this game. It really, the character leaps off the table on all the pictures. So hats off on that 100%. So look, I guess, to Arcworlde fans, I believe we call them Arc fans, is that right?
Yeah, that's the name that's developed.
So any final messages for any current Arc fans or any potential Arc fans out there?
Well, I suppose to my current fans to say thank you so much for your support over the years. Like, I'm doing, in my mind, the best job in the world. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else, and everything that I've achieved has been because of you.
Yeah.
I would not be sat here on Beasts of War right now if it wasn't for the continuing and incredible support of people who have been fans of my work, who have supported me, who have helped me through everything. Because starting your own business as a 20-year-old, with no training or aspect anything like that at all, I could not have done it without the kindness of people who just wanted to help.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly humbling to know that there are people out there who are willing to do that.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people still buy from me now. There's some guys out there who buy every model I ever make.
Yeah.
And that kind of support is absolutely wonderful. And as I said, I couldn't be here doing what I love right now if it wasn't for them. So thank you very much.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Alex. I mean, the hobby, I think, ties, no matter what aspect of tabletop you engage in, I think it ties us all together in a way, and it's great to see that the supporters have stuck with you throughout the years. So, look, thank you for your time and coming on and for that chat. I hope everyone watching, you've got a little bit about Arcworlde there, maybe something that would take your fancy. I was really interested, and so nice to hear about how you got started and going, Alex. That was a real treat for me. Thank you for that. Well, look, everybody, we will leave it there. Post your comments below if you have anything for Alex at all, and you can check out Arcworlde over on the Warploque Miniatures website. We'll put a link below. So we'll catch you again soon.
Twisted aliens and demented cultists battle across the devastating science fiction world of Dark Age. Muster your forces and learn to survive at beastsofwar.com. Progress comes to a world of magic as science and the arcane combine to make marvels. Meet steampunk inventors and orc mystics at the Volsun Hub on beastsofwar.com.
So yeah, it was really nice to get to chat to Alex. Very intimate, not just because I was in his bedroom, but just nice to have a bit of a chat with him and just get a feel for who he is as a person, how he approaches his design, and where all those kind of crazy, wacky, characterful characters come from in his game. Really just a very, very heartfelt and nice time. I hope I get him over at some point in the studio and show his game off if he's interested.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Kickstarters, Justin.
Yeah, so the first one I believe was chosen by yourself, Alex.
Well, this is my Spirit of Ben award, this one. Yeah, this because I couldn't ignore it. So this is Mouse Adventures by the guys at Cartoon Miniatures. These guys have just, I was talking to Beetle on the site actually, we both commented on this and just said how much character these little resin 28mm pieces have. They're absolutely outstanding. Very just they take on that natural fantasy role playing of wizards, warriors, rogues and archers, all that kind of stuff. So they're bringing it out in chapters. It starts with chapter 1, which gives you those 6 characters you can now see there, each one with its own name and own class, and look at the paint jobs on it. He's like a wee mini Captain America. Look at his little brave face and brave ears.
Look at the determination on that little mouse.
Kind of getting a Splinter vibe off this guy.
Harold, like each one of them just has so much detail and attention, and for me, actually, like the half and half fur, the light glowing off the hand. The wizard, I think, which is the last one we're about to see here, I think looks a little like Ben. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know why. I don't know why.
It's agreed. It's given.
It's the stoicness.
The wisdom behind the eyes. But the goal for them is to actually try and get 5 chapters out of this, hopefully, as they expand through the stretch goals. And what I thought was a really nice touch, you'll see it if you keep scrolling down in a second here, is that with the pledges you have the option, there you go, just there, you have the option, if you want, to get its own little Mouse Adventure volume storage. So you can actually get 5 little individual chapter boxes to go with each of them if they get that far. I really hope they do, because it genuinely looks
gorgeous stuff.
It looks like they're going into far more of the kind of enemies and minions, because the whole setting for the world is that humans have disappeared. We don't know why. They've just gone. And after a certain amount of time, evil magic is starting to permeate the earth again. And it's just with the humans not being around, it's starting to take over the forests and take over the world. And the mice and the characters and the creatures of the world are going to say, no, we're going to fight back, we want to save it, and they're all very brave and noble. But what you'll see in chapters 2 and 3
is the rats.
Some of the villains you're going to come across, they're
very sinister,
aren't they? Those real pointed faces, the teeth are properly just shiver-inducing, I think is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, but it's the way the weapons are designed as well. They feel a lot more rough-forged.
Yeah, much more fangy, much more sharp and daggery. The next one, Stretch Goal 3, they've actually already got on as well, and this shows some of your creepies.
The bugs!
Yeah, the vermin. Again, I think they're capturing even the kind of it's real looking, but it's also got that nice light fantasy feel to the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'd say at this point they've got about 20 days left. I really am generally hoping they've already been funded, I believe, but I'm generally hoping we can see them stretch to those 5 chapters.
Wouldn't it be nice to see all 5 chapters?
Absolutely.
Just to see what they have coming?
Yeah.
And I like the fact that it almost has that 1-to-1 scale kind of a feel about it, because the mouse is about the size of a mouse when you saw the scale of it against the hand. I really, really like this.
Yeah.
I really like this. Do we know anything about the gameplay just yet, or is it still a bit...
If I'm honest, no, I don't know anything now about it. I believe the Cartoon Miniatures team generally just do miniatures. I'm not sure if they have much of a rule system. I might be wrong on that one. But they do recommend these are going to be for role-playing, for skirmish games, for board games as well. Like there's a game called Mice and Mystics these would fit perfectly into. So I'm not sure if there's going to be a rules system behind it.
Well, we have to get a set of these, and we'll do a role-playing game ourselves of Danger Mice. So I think it'll be great. I think it'll be great. Justin, you're taking me into the realms of terrain.
Yeah, so this is the one that I picked. So this is Path of Osiris, and it's an extended one. So this is a range of, you can either get these 3D printed by the guys here, or you can get the files yourself to print them out. But it's letting you visit ancient Egypt for some dungeon delving.
Ooh.
So you've got all your internal tiles for actually doing
Pyramids.
Insides of tombs and stuff.
Yeah.
You've got cliff faces, you've got opening and closing doors, you've got your obelisks inside the actual tombs themselves. And then, if I move on down, you've got some of the externals. So there's your pyramid.
Oh!
So basically, if you ever wanted to take your role-playing group to an Egyptian sort of feeling adventure, this is what you're going to want to go with. So it's all 3D printable for yourselves, or they will print it out for you, and I just think it looks great.
Oh, I really like this.
The detailed hieroglyphics, I said that completely wrong, I'm not going to try and fix it, is really, really nice for a 3D printed mini.
This is really nice stuff,
That clip system that you just passed as well, Justin, is actually really, really good for building your dungeons to keep things firm. I do have a bit of a hatred for tiles that move about too much. Even cardboard tiles that are reasonably heavy and thick cardstock have a tendency to move when you've got 5-6 people around a table. That just guarantees that everything's staying where you want it.
Exactly.
I tell you what, scroll up just a little bit. Even that gold scheme. That's so Necron, isn't it?
If you got the gold down on that and then just put like a strong tone wash on, done. You don't need to touch it again.
I agree. That is some seriously cool stuff.
Yeah. So it's only got a few days left, so if you're wanting to have a look at it, now's the time to jump in.
Absolutely. Right. Okay, let's end out the show. Let's start.
Where do you want to start on?
Let's start with how can people win the Battle Foam rucksack.
Okay, so this is a brand new competition. So you're going to be commenting on this video on Beasts of War. So if you're watching on YouTube, come along to beastsofwar.com. We'll be putting out a full review of this, where we show off the whole bag and all the ins and outs of it later on this week. So next week you can come along and see everything to do with the Privateer Press backpack. It's a stunning piece of kit, absolutely amazing. And one of my big things for it is how useful it is for taking to conventions. How because it's a great carry-on, it's a great thing for backpacking, it's a great thing for supporting you, because they got a lot of research into how they did the lacing at the back, how they did the padding at the back to make it comfortable for you. So what I thought we would do is, for someone to win one of these, if you want to take this away with you, I want you to comment on beastofwar.com on this video and tell us what event would you go to in 2018 where you would love to have this guy with you and helping you out.
That's a good idea, because then we can get a bit of a straw poll and see Who would like to go where next year?
We're not stalking. We're
we
just
will stalk you. We will stalk you.
Warren might be.
Okay, so post in the comments below, what event would you like to go to next
this
year?
bag,
Yeah, and you can comment on more than one if you plan to go to more than one event. So.
And do it on beastofwar.com. So if you're watching on YouTube, come across to the site.
And then you get to take that to an event.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some pictures of you.
Right.
With it.
Let's give away some. Let's give away some prizes then. Okay. So.
Okay.
For the Aristeia week.
Yes.
Okay.
We had some amazing prizes.
We had the Infinity main prize.
Yes.
Okay.
Super special prize.
This is a super special prize.
Yes.
This is where you get all of the Aristeia expansions for 2018.
Yes.
And the winner is.
It would be. Oof, this is going to be interesting. Trying to read this one.
It's Odin's grandson.
You got me.
Stole it.
Yeah, well done.
So on Beast of War, that's Odin's grandson. You are the winner.
For all of you prize winners, come across and up there you'll see Contact Beast of War. Click Claim a Prize. Okay, Justin. Then we had extra prize A. This was 5 prizes of the Miyamoto Musashi boxes.
Miyamoto Musashi.
Miyamoto Musashi.
Musashi. Not
Musashi.
Shashi. Sashi.
Musashi.
Let's let Justin.
Okay.
Okay, so our first winner was John S. Loper from Facebook. Our second winner was Heavy Gear 02 from Beast of War. Our next winner was Jason Rodriguez from Facebook. The next one was the Evergrey one from YouTube. And our last winner from YouTube was Darth Smirnoff.
Good name.
That's a good name. Okay, next we had our next 5 prizes were 5 major Luna blisters.
Yes.
As who were our winners for that?
So on Beast of War, it was Bop3635. We also had Olin Gravel, that was one that's from YouTube. On Facebook, we had Aero Bodian.
Bowden?
Bodian? So Aero Bodian on Facebook. Then back on Beast of War, we had Scientologist. That's spelled Sci with an PS. And then finally, also from Beast of War, we had Fiery Titan. So no matter where you were, whether it was Facebook or YouTube or Beast of War, wherever you commented in one, come to beastofwar.com and hit that claim a prize in the top right-hand corner.
Okay, from SteamCon, we were giving away the Blacksmith's new box set.
Yes.
And that went to Felfini from beastofwar.com. And then finally, we were giving a campaign award pledge for Starfinder. It's like $430 worth here.
Yeah, sorry for the delay on this one. This one was from a little while ago. We know a couple of people have been asking us on Facebook saying, when's this prize coming? It was a very successful Kickstarter. So to get this pledge, which is like $430, I think, roughly. It might even be a bit more once they hit the rest of the stretch goals.
Alex T from Beasts of War. And then remember, guys, we have 2 other, so we have 3 competitions in the running at the moment. The Battle Foam bag, which you comment on this video.
Yep.
If you go to the last weekender, which was 2 weeks ago, we're giving away a Battle Systems Galactic Terrain set. So go and place a comment there on your name for a space station. And earlier this week, we put up the Jesserai Terrain
Mega bundle
video with a mega bundle.
Yeah, one quick reminder
£400
for
mega
that.
bundle. Yeah.
One quick reminder for that. The guys at Foreground actually did do the bundle again on their website. So if you want to actually just go and buy it, you can just go and grab it.
Oh, so you can just go and get it, yeah.
There should be a couple of days left on that. So they basically reopened up their Black Friday bundle for us for 1 week from when that video went out.
Right, so if you want to go and pick that up on a Black Friday price, go across to foreground.com, I believe it is. We'll have a link in the show notes. Otherwise, post in that post.
Yeah, when you get your prizes, because like our mystery prize from the awards with Paul winning that, send us some pictures. We'd love to see what you guys are doing with them. Pop them on the forums, drop them across to as@beastofwar.com if you want as well, because it's just lovely to see you guys. I love starting addictions, starting hobbies. Not gonna lie.
Okay, guys.
There's nothing that brings me more joy than hearing someone say, "You made me buy stuff."
That wraps us up for this week. Remember, you can come across and join Backstage. Beast of War just wouldn't exist without our Backstagers. It would not be possible to run. It helps us pay for the bills, for the electric and everything else that we utilize. All of these front stage shows that we put out on YouTube and these weekenders are only possible because of the support of our Backstagers who pay us the price of a coffee. It's the price of a coffee per month. And that helps keep everything ticking along, and we do our best to try and give them a bunch of extra bits and pieces of content and behind-the-scenes stuff to really help them see just what's happening in the engine rooms of Beasts of War. You know what? A huge thank you to all of our backstagers because you guys are amazing. We couldn't operate this community without you. Mm-hmm. Right. Tomorrow morning, we have the backstage version of The Weekender, where everything gets a little bit more chillaxed again. Mm-hmm. We've got lots to talk about. So hopefully we'll see as many of you as we can tomorrow morning over at beastsofwar.com. Thank you for watching. Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now, and be sure to check out beastsofwar.com for the latest gaming news and gaming Let's Plays. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.